Welcome back to Knockhill Racing Circuit for the first round of the 2016 Scottish Sports and Saloons. In today's programme, we're also going to have a look at the classic Sports and Saloons a little later on, but first up is the big powerful machinery and its 450 brake horsepower of Adam Kindness on pole position in the Subaru. Plenty of people behind him to challenge. If you have a look back here, you'll see equally as powerful, full wet tyres, treacherous conditions. What could possibly go wrong? I'll hand it to Richard and he'll take us through their first race of the year.
Wet and slippery for the hour of power. What could go wrong, Joe? Pole position, Adam Kindness. Colin Simpson alongside, then Graham Davidson and the defending champion Ian Donaldson. Then it's Mark Dawson and Graham Robertson. Scott Tolan and William Robson next. John Kennedy, Keith Cowie from Charlie Fraser, Brian Meldrum, Phil Dryborough and Paul Bryden. As you can see, the last three drivers on the list not having set times in qualifying. So out of those, you can expect Paul Bryden to maybe have a little bit of a charge through the field. But what a great view we had there from the track surface of the front runner. So it's Adam Kindness starting on pole. Countdown is underway. The Marcus Mantis of Colin Simpson. Wonderful to see that back out. And a good start from Ian Donaldson. The Noble of Graham Davidson. A little bit slow off the line. And it's the four-wheel drive machines that, as perhaps we might expect, get away pretty well. And it's Adam Kindness that's the race leader. Colin Simpson from Graham Davidson in the Noble. And then it's the Mitsubishi. The Noble runs a little bit wide. The Mitsubishi nips up the inside. So as you can see, number one on the car is the defending champion. The Marcus Mantis running in Class A2, which is, as you would probably expect, two-wheel drive. We'll talk about the classes as the race develops, but Donaldson looking for second place. And you can see not taking any huge risks at the moment. 63 is Graham Robertson. You might spot a few more Seats in the course of this race. One of those is Mark Dawson, who's I think one of only two returning champions. Mark Dawson, double class champion in B1 2012-2013, and powering his way up the straight to make up a position. But meanwhile, challenge on for the lead. Oh, Ian Donaldson clattered over the curve. He's trying to take Colin Simpson. We've got Adam Kindness now down to second, and that was a brave move. I was saying how carefully he seemed to be picking off the places earlier on, but back down now behind Graham Davidson, and Colin Simpson still the race leader, but Adam Kindness is all over the back of him again. Now let's have a look and see whether the Noble can hang on to third place. And the Mitsubishi Evo 9 goes up the inside into Clark and makes the move. Adam Kindness in the Subaru, though, is putting the pressure on the Marcus Mantis. Mark Dawson's back in fifth place at the moment in the Seat Leon. As we said, we got three of those. Brian Meldrum and Keith Cowie also out in those. Adam Kindness looks up the inside to try and take the lead in this, the first round of the 2016 Scottish Saloon and Sports Car Championship. Absolutely filthy conditions. And Simpson still there out front, and Ian Donaldson being made to work hard. Raced the number 88 last year, goes through on the outside line. Well, you might have thought that with what happened earlier on, he wouldn't want to try that a second time, but he did. He's got his nose in front. Adam Kindness is now all over the back of the Mantis as well. Fantastic racing, and of course these cars all have different characteristics which work at different points on the circuit. Here comes Kindness, has a look up the inside. The Mantis is going to hang on to position here at the moment. The climb up through Clark Curve, round Hislop's Railway Straight, as it used to be known, and heading down in towards the hairpin, where it's the slowest point on the circuit. And we'll see whether Kindness looks up the inside, which he does. The Mantis is going for the sweep, turns in. Kindness hasn't really got room to do anything about it, and Ian Donaldson retains the lead. Adam Kindness again coming out of the spray. Probably interesting to see. You want to keep out of the spray. Really, keeping out of the spray means you're off racing line some of the time, but it means a little bit of vision. Graham Davidson in the Noble still running in fourth place, but clearly dropping back. I can tell you that, as we predicted, Paul Bryden is making a lot of progress in the BMW, and Bryden in actual fact the second quickest car on circuit. Ian Donaldson is the fastest, unsurprisingly. Paul Bryden is second quickest, averaging 78 miles an hour on his fastest lap. 80.224 for Ian Donaldson in the Mitsubishi, who goes out of shot and will get into back marker territory. Adam Kindness still trying hard and looking all over the back of Colin Simpson, getting a run here which may well manifest itself. No, he's too far back. I was going to say might slingshot under braking into the lead going into the hairpin, but nothing really doing there. Back in car with Adam Kindness again, switches to the outside of the circuit where there's a little bit of room, and this is of course what Ian Donaldson had to do to get into the race lead, coming down into Duffus. As you can see, the Mantis leaving a reasonable amount of room on the outside line, but I think knowing, but now there's a gap on the inside coming down into Scotsman, can't quite go through. Adam Kindness frustrated again there and challenging hard, so we've got the Class A1 car of Ian Donaldson leading. Oh, and over the grass goes the third place car of Adam Kindness. Now, that's not going to do the car any favours at all, because that was a very bouncy moment. We've still got the Noble in fourth place, and just trying to look through the spray to see where Paul Bryden is, see if he's making progress as well, plus Mark Dawson as well. Adam Kindness a little bit adrift now of Colin Simpson, so he's got to try and do it all again as we go back in car with Adam Kindness coming up the hill, and just getting a screen full of spray. Really treacherous, bad enough to drive, and even more difficult to try and attempt an overtaking manoeuvre here for Adam Kindness. But we're coming up on back marker traffic as well, and a spin for the two Subarus. That's John Kennedy in green that's taken the spin. Adam fires up the car and gets going. There's Paul Bryden going through, so Bryden makes up another position, might even be on his way to an overall podium if he can continue a pace. But Adam Kindness losing out in that one. John Kennedy has recovered, which is good to see. So Ian Donaldson, the defending champion, car never missed a beat last year. He was either winner or class winner, I think, at all bar one of those. Keith Cowie, by the way, one of the new drivers, three new drivers, Scott Tolan, Keith Cowie and Charlie Fraser. And that was Keith in his Seat Leon as the number one car heads up and over the hill once again. William Robson in the Ford Focus, the first of the two cars that the race leader is closing down on. And you can see Keith Cowie behind them. And I think we've got William Robson and Scott Tolan to look out for as well in their Fords. Scott Tolan racing in the Escort Cosworth. But the race leader, Ian Donaldson, heads along the Brabham Straight up in towards Clark Curve. Good little scrap going on immediately in front of him, with the Focus of William Robson holding sway at the moment, and Ian Donaldson won't want to interfere with the battle, but also be keen enough to go through. He's built up a pretty good lead at the moment over Colin Simpson. It's over 10 seconds. Scott Tolan is the chaser there. In fact, Scott nips up the inside. Both newcomers, as you can see, the yellow square and the black cross on the back of the car, and they're enjoying their race. Very sensibly allowed the leader through. So Ian Donaldson is on the last lap here, and looks like it's going to be a successful opening to the defence of his Scottish Saloon and Sports Car Championship title. Into Scotsman corner for the last time. As we said, fastest lap of the race remains the one that he set back on lap 4, 56.851 in these incredible conditions, 80.224 miles per hour. And it looks like Donaldson will take another win. As I say, car didn't miss a beat last year, took so many outright wins. I think it was only second in class on one occasion. That was the last round of the year when it was all over and done. And superb reliability, which continues once again. The checkered flag is being readied. Looks like the Noble is slowing, so Graham Davidson is coming into pit lane, and we wait as the Ginetta Phil Dryber goes across the line. There's the win for Ian Donaldson. Donaldson the winner. It's still the Marcus Mantis in second place. It's a long wait. Keep your eyes left of shot. There is the Mantis coming into view. Paul Bryden's running in third. It's going to be a class win though for Colin Simpson in the Marcus Mantis. Paul Bryden will take second in class A2. There's the win. Colin Simpson second overall, win in class A2. Second in A2 will go to Paul Bryden in the BMW, crosses the line, and then Mark Dawson takes third place in A2, Phil Driver in fifth, Graham Robertson in sixth place, and then Scott Tollan, who got the better of William Robson, Brian Meldrum in ninth, Keith Cowie, John Kennedy, and then Charlie Fraser in 12th place, completing the finishes.
Ian dominated last year and started this year exactly in the same way. In qualifying, it didn't go well. You went out with slicks when you should have been on wets, but in the race with the wet tyres, unstoppable.
I know we went out earlier, we didn't get much grip, so we started fourth, but I knew it would be a lot better once we get the right tyres on it, so it made a big difference.
You seem to be the guy in this championship that's cracked having a really quick car, but a car that actually lasts the distance.
Well, don't jinx me.
Well, it's early days, but consistently you are finishing and winning races.
I know it's a lot of work. Will Greer and Colin, that was on the rolling road on Wednesday, and really being built for then for the weekend, so there's a lot of work goes into it, but it keeps going.
Well done.
Cheers.
Third place, a good start to the year. Tricky, horrible conditions there. So much power in the wet there, but the wets will be helping you.
Yeah, there was. Well, I had to start for the back. I had a thing with my helmet, was something to do with the hands device, so I had to get another helmet. Thanks to Ian Donaldson for lending me his old one. But yeah, starting for the back, worked my way through. 4 laps to the end, somebody had dumped oil or something. I came up behind the Noble, I think it was, and I just couldn't see a thing for the last 4 or 5 laps. I just had to judge by where my rev limits were on the limit to where I was going to brake and that. So I'm quite happy to finish.
At the end of the day, it's a great result considering.
Yeah, aye, superb. So see what happens this afternoon.
Well done.
Thank you.
Sports and Saloons, race number 2 about to head out on track. Now it is still full wet conditions, but the sun's come out and you can see race 1 winner Ian Donaldson on pole position, chosen slicks. The Marcos as well on slicks, and the BMW on slicks heading out on track. So the early laps are going to be quite tricky. I'll hand it to Richard for their second race of the day.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? So pole position goes to Ian Donaldson with Colin Simpson, then Paul Bryden and Mark Dawson row 2, Phil Driver and Graham Robertson on row 3, Scott Tollan next from William Robson, then Brian Meldrum and Keith Cowie, John Kennedy, Charlie Fraser, Graham Davidson and Adam Kindness completing the starters in this one. Class B1, incidentally, won by William Robson from Brian Meldrum in race number 1. So still wet, it looks dry, but when you see the track you'll see a drying line. Away we go, good start by the Mitsubishi and also the Mantis. It's the Mitsubishi that leads them down Duffus for the first time. Paul Bryden's just ahead of the Ginetta G50 of Phil Dryborough. There in 63 is Graham Robertson. Graham 5th position in Class A2. Big sideways moment off onto the gravel for the race leader, the defending champion. Now, did he escape from that in lead position? Adam Kindness is making progress, already up ahead of Scott Tollan. And ahead of them, Mark Dawson in the number 4. And the answer is that it's the Mantis that leads. And that is exactly what Joe Tanner was saying in the introduction to this race. Still full wet conditions. The first few laps are going to be interesting, and they were, particularly so for Ian Donaldson. Adam Kindness making some very good progress indeed, but it's Colin Simpson in the 5-litre Marcos Mantis that leads them. Phil Dryborough has gone up to 3rd. Adam Kindness side by side at the moment with Paul Bryden. And there's the Ginetta, so he passes the Ginetta G50 and goes down into Duffus and chasing the 2 race leaders now. So at the moment it's the Class A2 car heading the 2 Class A1 machines, and Kindness going a little bit wide there, and Phil Dryborough's starting to put the pressure on once again in the 4.5 litre Ginetta G50. So most of these cars providing a real handful and test around this circuit, but it's Colin Simpson out front. Simpson will be happy to try and take the win in this one. A little bit smoky as he comes down into corner. Is that a little bit of tyre rub on the outer rear tyre? Very maybe. Early stages of the race, he might encounter some problems a little bit later on, but at the moment the problems that he has are Ian Donaldson breathing all over him. Through goes Paul Bryden, followed by Mark Dawson. And back of shot at the moment, you can see the little Westfield Megabusa, 1396cc Class B2, the only runner in B2. Here he comes, Charlie Fraser, lone class runner, as we go back to the 89 car of William Robson and Graham Robertson. Nearly called him Scott Robertson on the grid. Of course, Scott, who was running in the STs and running the national championship for the Fiestas last year, but Graham Robertson, who was, I think, 5th in Class A2 in race number 1. And William Robson in 89, the Class B1 winner in the first race of the day. Ford Focus RS, William Robson looking to pick up another class win. At the moment, the BMW, which is running on the racing tyre, not going to get huge advantages out of the racing tyres in these very wet conditions. And you can see a drying line. It's not a dry line by any stretch of the imagination, but it is starting to dry out a little bit. If you needed to think about what the conditions were like, that little wiggle there from the Marcos should give you a clue as to what it's like. But we do nonetheless have a challenge from the defending champion, and Ian Donaldson's going to be having a look. He's getting a face full of spray at the moment. The spray's not as bad as it was in race number 1 to my mind, but it's still not the easiest of conditions out there. And the number 1 car, for Mike, doesn't really need to think about the overall win. He'll want it, but points-wise, all he'll need to do points-wise is finish where he is to take the maximum points in class for the championship. But Ian Donaldson, of course, it's not about that for him. It's about winning the race overall. And he's having a look down the inside line, comes back across the track. So Donaldson takes the lead, but too much speed down Duffus across the gravel. Oh, very nearly touches the Marcus Mantis. Gets it sideways. He's still got the power on to get out of the gravel. That is the sort of recovery you expect from a reigning champion. It was a good recovery from Donaldson, and just goes to show what a brave move that was in the wet around the outside. A little bit of drifting as he comes back onto the circuit, but he's lost ground. Hasn't lost the race by any means, because Paul Bryden, who was 3rd in the first race, is still behind him in this one. Now, in terms of championship points up for grabs, we do have one non-starter in this one. It's the Noble of Graham Davidson, but he's in Class A2, so it still means we've got full points in classes A1, A2 and B1. Here's the view from Adam Kindness, who's made tremendous progress and is trying to close in on the Marcus at the moment under the Beatson's Bridge, and coming down into Duffus once again. Now, say made good progress because Adam DNF'd. He was the first retirement of race number 1. Only the 2 retirements, Adam Kindness and the Noble of Graham Davidson, who we saw going into the pit lane right at the end when the checker was being prepared. Graham Davidson not starting this one, but Adam Kindness therefore starting at the back of the grid in this race. So he's made a great deal of progress. It's the Westfield going through. Brian Meldrum in the red Seat, now being chased by Colin Simpson. Second in race number 1 for the Marcos. Still a little bit of tyre smoke, but possibly coming off that car. Let's hope it doesn't cause a problem. We've got the blue flags out for the cars running, the slightly slower cars. The green Subaru of John Kennedy is going to be the next target for the Marcos, and you can see the gap. So the race leader's the blue car, 2 back markers in between, then the second place car, which is Adam Kindness, with that non-finishing race number 1, and the race leader down to Scotsman Corner doesn't seem at the moment to be having any problems. So the Marcos clears the chicane and heads away down towards Clark Curve on the drying part of the circuit. Couple of wheels on the slightly wetter line there. He might have to come offline to deal with some of the back markers. As we said, it's John Kennedy who is next and running second in Class B1 at the moment. So some handy championship points to be picked up by John Kennedy. And John will have seen the blue flags, he'll have seen the Marcos in his mirrors, and keeps to the outside line. So good driving from him. The next target for the race leader is going to be Keith Cowie. And in fact, the race leader goes into pit lane. I was about to say he's trying to hunt down Keith Cowie, but he comes in. And is that the rear end problem? Let's have a look and see what his helpers. They've gone straight to the rear end of the car. They were well aware. They could see what we could see out on track, and back at the front of the field after that, in fact 2 offs in this race, is Ian Donaldson, and that is the sort of recovery that wins you championships, because remember, he was off in the gravel on lap number 1 at Scotsman Corner, and he was off again on the way down Duffus after losing grip trying to pass the Mantis, but he's back in front. So Ian Donaldson heads down in towards the hairpin and closing up on Keith Cowie, as indeed Colin Simpson was earlier on in the race. Simpson now into retirement. We've still got Adam Kindness in second place chasing up the hill at the moment. So it's Mitsubishi from Subaru Impreza, and Mitsubishi closing in on the very smart looking Seat. Keith Cowie, who'll have picked up some useful points, and of course over the course of the season, I think this championship, out of all of the championships that we run here at Knockhill Racing Circuit, is the one with the most interchangeable set of drivers. You tend to get drivers dipping in and out over the course of the season. A few regulars come into race as well, but very much a championship which welcomes that. Looks a little bit slow here, doesn't he? It's number 1 car slowing down. No, maybe just a trick of the eye, coming down into the hairpin, and Adam Kindness is starting to close up. No, there is a problem very clearly for the race leader, who spins around. Adam Kindness goes to the outside line and manages to clear the race leader. Now here's the onboard from Adam Kindness, very clearly closing up. Something's gone pop, spins around. Kindness goes to the outside line, and Kindness's car stopped as well. Adam Kindness has stopped, and through on the inside goes the Ginetta. Phil Driver has gone through into the lead. And there are problems as well, by the look of it, for John Kennedy, who slowed up. Well, he's still going on track, but we've got cars in prone positions on the track. Phil Driver is now the race leader in the Ginetta from Paul Bryden, and big problems. Colin Simpson retired, then Ian Donaldson, Adam Kindness pulled up, and there's John Kennedy going off as well. The red flags are being brought out for the number of cars that have broken down. It's left some oil on the track as well, but it means that the result is going to be declared with Phil Driver in the Ginetta G50 taking the win from Paul Bryden, and then Mark Dawson from Scott Tollan, Graham Robertson next from William Robson, Keith Cowie and John Kennedy, Brian Meldrum next from Charlie Fraser, and a string of very high-level retirements, sadly.
Phil, well done. A bizarre ending to what was a good race up until that point. Changeable conditions as usual, a good challenge, but then at the end, carnage.
Changeable's always good. It makes for a fantastic race, and it equalises the cars out a bit as well. And there's some very, very quick cars out there, but if you don't finish, it doesn't matter how quick you are.
Talk us through the incident. Everybody went left, you went right?
In all honesty, I didn't see what happened, except there was 2 or 3 cars at the hairpin, and yeah, everybody seemed to want to go one way, and it looked very, very obvious to go to the inside, because the other 2 cars had stopped. They weren't coming across the track at all, and then that was it. That's all there was to it. Just being in the right place at the right time.
And a good win. Well done.
Thank you.